This message is called Convinced. Convinced. If you have a Bible, we're going to be reading from the second chapter, or the second book of Timothy in the fourth chapter. So 2 Timothy chapter 4. We're going to read the first 10 verses, and then we're going to break it down. If you don't have a Bible, as always, it's on the screen, or you can just find a Christian in your row. Bring your Bible to church, Let's read. In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing in his kingdom, I give you this charge. Preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you, keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge all the duties of your ministry. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I've kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Do your best to come to me quickly. For Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, and Titus to Dalmatia. Lord, speak to us. I trust you. You ever been around somebody, or you have a friend who just tells you what you want to hear all the time? I think there's a place for that, right? There's a place for somebody who, no matter what you're wearing, no matter how you look, they can always make you feel like $1 million. You know what I mean? I call them a hype man or a hype woman or a hype friend. And what you can do is you can look like you just crawled out of bed, which some people do on Sunday mornings. They come in here looking like they literally just crawled out of bed. And you see that friend and you're like, how do I look today? And they're like, in their mind, they're thinking, you could have got ready for church. But to you, they're going to be like, oh, you look great. Everybody needs a hype friend. You need one. But you also need some friends that'll tell you the truth. Men, boys, if your wife or your girlfriend or your fiance or whatever asks you at any point, how does this outfit make me look? If you even hesitate, it's over. Don't do it. Don't do it. Listen, look straight ahead at the TV and say, great. Listen, just say great. You don't have time to even go, well. If you say well, it's over. If you hesitate at all, it's over. The answer is good, great, lovely. You're beautiful. You're fine. I dig you. Just anything that is positive and has a positive connotation is the correct answer in this response. Anything that rhymes with or well, or that doesn't accentuate your figure, don't say anything like that. If you do, you're going to be sleeping on the couch for the next 6 months. You should be your spouse's ultimate hype person. Hype them up. What we have here is a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to his son in the faith, Timothy. Paul is writing this letter to Timothy from the prison in Rome, where the Emperor Nero has gone crazy and he is fixing to execute Paul and dispose of him for the last time. And I think about what I would say in a letter to somebody that was an understudy of mine, that was a son in the faith, that we had walked this journey together with. And I'm a hype man at heart. I love encouraging people and doing these things. And so I would probably be like, man, Timothy, we did good. Man, you remember that time we were in Thessalonica and we was walking through town and everybody was hollering and hooping and it was a good time. Man, you remember that time we, raised somebody from the dead and everybody was like, wow. You would be recalling all of the great things that happened along the way. But let me tell you what Paul was not. He was not a hype man. What was his goal? His goal was to leave Timothy convinced that when he gets to the end of all of this, everything he's going through is going to be worth it. Let's talk about it. He says this to Timothy. He says, Timothy, preach the word. The first charge he gives him is preach the word. And church, I need you to understand something today. The word is the only thing that's going to convince you that Jesus is worth it. Not men's ministry, not women's ministry, not, small groups, kids church, youth, fun arts, not any of that stuff. Psalms, the word I have hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against you. I learned enough elevation songs, so now I can resist temptation. I learned enough. They sang 2 of my favorite 3 songs this morning, so now I know I won't sin for at least 6 hours. No, you better hide the word in there. And Paul understood this, and so he charges Timothy. He says, hey, Timothy, preach the word. I think about the Americanisms we have now. We say things, this is unbelievable. I was just thinking about this. Well, hang in there, brother. Hang in there? What? Is that supposed to encourage me to keep going? Somebody told me one time that they were hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit. I felt all of the knowledge in my body leave immediately. Like a hair in a biscuit. My gosh. Or how about this one? Well, brother, what don't kill you will make you stronger. I'm thankful I didn't die. What? That'll encourage somebody. Well, at least you didn't die. What? Or how about this one? Somebody told me this once about the decisions I made earlier in my life. Well, it ain't a dead-end road if it took you somewhere you needed to go. Again, those 3 comments in my life have removed all knowledge that I have in my body. I've been recovering ever since. I don't understand what that is exactly supposed to mean to encourage somebody. And Paul didn't say any of this to Timothy. He's charging him. He said, preach the word. The second thing he says to Timothy is, hey, Timothy, you need to be prepared in season and out of season. What does that mean for us? That means when somebody in the church calls you on Tuesday morning and they're going through some stuff, you better know how to pray with them on the phone. You better know how to meet up with them and say, you know what, I might not feel it today, but I'm going to pray with you anyway. I'm going to be here for you anyway. You got to walk with some people through some stuff, and the only way to do that is if you are instant, in season and out. It's easy to pray for people up here at the altar on Sunday morning. But what about Thursday afternoon? What about Friday night? What about Monday morning? Nobody likes Monday mornings, but you better be instant, in season and out. He says, hey, Timothy, correct people. That's a fun one. Everybody likes to correct people. He says, hey, Timothy, rebuke people. Like in the name of Jesus, or just like rebuke people? I mean, like what? He says, hey, Timothy, encourage people. He says, hey, Timothy, and this is my favorite one, keep your head in this. Keep your head in this. In other words, what he's telling Timothy in this moment is, Timothy, if you are not consistent in what you are doing, if you are not doing this and walking this out every single day of your life, you won't make it. You cannot make it if the only thing you're going to give is Sunday morning and an occasional Wednesday night. You'll never last. You've got to keep your head in this. Keep your head in this, Timothy. And then here's one that I felt the Lord on strongly. He says, Timothy, endure hardships. Doesn't sound like a hype man to me. Endure hardships. But Paul, like you're fixing to die, man, and this is the last thing you're telling me? to endure hardships. And then the final thing he tells him is, finish all the Lord has for you. And church, I want you to understand something today. The charge that was right before finished all the Lord has for you is to endure hardships. And I need you to understand something. You'll never finish if you don't endure. You'll never get to the end if you don't pass and battle through the hardships that are going to come along the way. Some of this stuff is easy. Preach the word. Oh, that's fun. Encourage. Oh, that'll be a good time. Timothy can pick and choose some of the stuff that he wants to do. But how about rebuking? And how about enduring the hardships? And how about keeping your head in this? None of that is the stuff that we want to pick and choose. It's easy to encourage. And for some of you, it's easy to correct. Y'all love doing that. But what about enduring the hardships? Who wants to do that? I'll tell you who. The people who want to finish. The people who want to finish what it is that the Lord has for them. And then Paul says, as for me, I fought the good fight. What does that mean? I fought the good fight. You know, guys, this walk with the Lord, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And I'm not naive to think that we're going to get up here and, preach health, wealth, and happiness and everything's going to be okay. This is not the easiest thing that you're going to do in your life, being a Christian, being a follower of Christ. Sometimes you're going to pray and the heavens are going to be open above you. You're going to feel the Lord and it's going to feel like he's just raining down blessings and glory all over your life. Sometimes you're going to pray and it feels like you're praying to this big old piece of steel up here. Nothing in response. Sometimes everything you touch in your life is going to turn to gold. It's going to feel like God is literally guiding every decision that you make and you can't miss. And then sometimes you're going to make decisions and it feels like every single one of them is the wrong one. Sometimes the kids are going to act a fool. A lot of the times kids are going to act a fool. Some of the times they'll do right. Some of the times you're going to have enough money in the bank account. Sometimes you aren't. Sometimes you're going to feel like coming to church. Sometimes you're not. Some of the time, you're going to want to get into your car and turn on worship music and ride down the road and pray. Sometimes you're going to want to get in there and get on the phone and talk about mindless stuff. But you've got to fight the good fight. That's what Paul's saying. You know what? The first time I went to prison, I kept going. It would have been easy just to say, you know what? I'm in prison. This is not for me. I'm going to, instead of preaching out in the middle of the city, I'm just going to start a small group in the home. We won't get caught that way and they won't arrest me. They won't put me in prison again. No, he didn't do that. He said, you know what? I'm out of prison. And I'm going to go to this other country and I'm going to preach some more. And then they're going to put me in prison again. But I'm going to keep fighting because this is worth fighting for. I'm convinced that this Jesus is worth my life. And he kept fighting. And church, I don't want to see you stop fighting. I don't want to see you give up. I don't want to see you fold when times are tough, when times are hard, when times are inconsistent more than you would like. The second thing he tells Timothy is, I finished the race. I finished the race. Do you remember when you were in school? I give this analogy to our students from time to time. Where I went to school, we used to run the timed mile. Did anybody else do that in PE or, PE is physical education? The goal was to run the timed mile on the first day of class. And then You would run it again a few weeks later, and then you would run it again. And the goal was by the end of the semester that you were running it consistently at a pace faster than you were at the beginning. I hated running the timed mile. Like I was dressed for school. I don't want to run the timed mile. I don't want to stink all day long, and I'm going to stink. But I liken this, what Paul is saying to that. Everybody lines up, and everybody's excited to go. And you got 50 people lined up ready to go. And 4 laps around the track is a mile. And here we go. And as soon as that horn sounds, we're all going to take off. And the horn sounds, and everybody in the class, short, little, big, tall, skinny, large, everybody's running as fast as they can right off the bat. Smiling, joshing, elbowing each other, just hanging out, having a good time. Here we go. Here we go. And we're running. And then you get to the end of that first lap. And you look back and you're like, a couple of people have peeled off. A couple of people's hands are heavy. You're doing this number. A few people got a side stitch probably. You ever had a side stitch? They're the worst. And then you get to the end of that first lap and you're like, all right, one down. And then that second lap, you keep going. And on the second lap, things are getting a little bit harder. You're a little more tired. You're a little more thirsty. Your legs are starting to get heavy. You're kind of thinking about, I don't know if taking this class was really worth it. And you keep going. And you keep running. And then you get to the end of that second lap and you turn and you look and about half the people that you started with are gone. And some more have peeled off. And all you can think about in that moment is how tired you are. All you can think about in that moment is how tired you are and how much you want to give up and how thirsty you are and how you just need a drink of water and how you just wish this would just give you a break. You just need a break. And then you get to that third lap. And you're running, and you're breathing heavy, and your eyes are ahead, and you're not talking to anybody, and you're just flat out exhausted. And you get to the end of the third lap, and you look around, and there's nobody left but maybe you and 1 or 2 other people. How much of this is just like our Christian walk? So many good starters in Christianity, but how many people quit along the way? Some of you are in the third lap right now, and you're tired, and you're exhausted, and you're worn out, and the people who started with you aren't in this thing anymore. Look around. Look around here. There are people that used to come to church here, that came to church with you, that you never in a million years would have thought have walked away from the faith. And where are they now? They're gone. I can't tell you how many people in my life that I thought would be walking this thing out with me, that I thought would be in ministry beside me today, that I thought would be youth pastoring at a church or leading worship at a church or a missionary or doing something in a local church has just completely left the faith. But what about you? Paul says in the 10th verse, come to me quickly. For Demas, because he loved the world, has abandoned me. Man, people leaving Christianity has been a thing since the beginning, hasn't it? For Demas, he loved the world too much, so he quit. I fought the good fight. I finished the race. What Paul was saying is, you know what? Timothy, listen to me, son. Listen to me. There is somebody at the end of the race. And his name is Jesus, and he's cheering you on. And I know you're tired, but just keep running. And I know you're exhausted, but just keep running. I know that you want to quit, but just keep running. I know that you're alone. I know that you're hurting. I know that you're broken. I know that you're downcast. I know that you're dealing with all these different emotions, but please just keep running. Because he's worth it, and I'm telling you, he is worth it today. And the last thing he says is, I've kept the faith. You know, guys, faith is not something that has an arrival day. Like you don't pray for faith and then you get it and then it's just yours forever. We understand that, right? Like faith is not something that's like, oh, the Lord came through for me in a situation. Now I'll never have to doubt again. That's not how this works. Faith is something that you have to exercise. That is why Paul used the terminology, I kept the faith. Not I was given the faith and I just held on to it. I kept it. I had to keep it. Because the first time I was put in prison, maybe I would have been doubting a little bit. And maybe that was trying to take my faith away. But you know what? I jerked it back. I kept it. What about the second time when I was beaten out in the city square for all to see, and then I was thrown in the inner cell with Silas? It would have been easy there to lose faith, right? But I kept it. And what about this time? Here in Rome, with Nero fixing to execute me. It would be easy to lose faith there too. But you know what? In my final hours, I'm going to write you this letter, Timothy. And I want you to understand what it's going to take for you to finish this race. I need you to preach the word. I need you to be prepared. I need you to correct, to encourage, to rebuke, to keep your head in this, and then mainly to endure hardships. And some of you here today, there's a hardship going on in your life that you never thought would be for you. Some of you in the room today are walking through a battle. You're walking through a tough season. You're walking through a tough situation, and you don't understand why. You don't understand what is happening. And for you, it would be easier just to bow out of the race. You're on the second lap. You're on the third lap, and it's worth quitting. It makes sense to a man or to a woman to just give up at this point. Nobody would blame you. Life is hard. Nobody would blame you if you quit. We would still love you and be there. But what about that man at the end who's saying, just keep coming. Just keep running. Man, if you'll just keep pushing on, you'll finish this race. Just keep the faith. Against all odds and against all circumstances, just keep the faith. Just keep coming. Please, just keep running. Jesus is the ultimate hype man. He says, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. Would you bow your heads with me today? Actually, I want you to look at me. I wasn't going to do this, but I feel like I should. This towel, I carry it around. And it's nothing important. It's a $1 towel from It's Walmart, I guess. It says Mainstays on it. And it has my name. And it has 2 arrows on it. And it's the theme of our youth camp, the movement that we go to every summer. And a few years ago, we were, Beck and I, on the verge of leaving ministry altogether. We were hurting, broken, had been punctured and wounded, and had things said about us, and just stuff you can't really imagine when you spend your life trying to pour into other people. And I got to camp that summer, and my spiritual father, Pastor Jeremy Allstill, we met, and he gave me this towel. And we talked, and we prayed, and we laughed, and we did a bunch of things together. And that summer, the Lord touched my life. He healed my heart. And this towel is meaningful to me, and it hangs in my office every day. And when I walk in there every day, it's the symbolism of this towel that says, you know what? Just keep going. Just keep running. Just keep fighting. Just keep the faith. Just keep praying. Just keep attending church. Just keep loving your neighbor. Just keep doing what the Lord asks you to do. If you're hurt, just keep going. If you're broken, just keep going. Jesus is at the end, and he is cheering you on. He is rooting for you. And this towel, while it obviously doesn't mean anything to the majority of you, it means everything to me. And I feel like this morning, there's a few people in the room who you're just on the verge of giving up. And I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm just talking about on the verge of giving up in general. Could be with something you've been praying about. Could be with a family member. Could be with a marriage. Could be with your kids. Could just be believing for something, and now you're just worn out with it. I want to ask everybody to stand to their feet this morning.